Hi, I'm Mark, and this is my wife, Amber. We're here to share the truth about the misinformation that was spread at the October 28th Elizabeth School Board meeting about our family. It's absolutely impossible to tell the entirety of the story within a 3-minute window, so we'll do it here. We're sharing our story because we believe every parent deserves to know the truth about what's happening inside their child's school, especially when that child can't speak for themselves.
On September 30th, 2024, Ronan came home from Singing Hills Preschool in the Elizabeth School District with a visible head injury. No one from the school called, no report, no email, nothing. The same day, we later learned that there had been a biting incident involving our child. The other parent, our neighbor, was made to sign an incident report, but we were never told. The school admitted that they made the choice not to notify us.
And contrary to what Mr. Snowberger said, we tried to get answers immediately. That day, the next day, the day after that, and the day after that, for months, but the school never opened an investigation. Instead, we were pushed through 4 hostile IEP meetings that felt less about helping our son and more about pushing him or us out. I'm feeling a bit insulted that on the last call too, that it was implied that, a child staying home with his parents somehow has grim consequences as opposed to going to preschool. A preschool in which he's come home injured, by the way, without a report, without saying anything, right here on his head. And when he's felt sick, he's been allowed to pass out on the couch, and you don't call his parents. We're failing him. This team especially is failing him right now. We fought for our son to stay in preschool with the proper supports. That would include a one-on-one ABA therapist and a level of speech therapy and everything that his disability required. We weren't asking for anything extraordinary. But each time, the team shut us down. They dismissed our private evaluation confirming his autism and his language disorders, and they even threatened to make him skip kindergarten altogether if we withdrew him for the year to seek outside therapy, completely taking the burden of his education and therapy off of the district.
As parents of a child with autism, you're told that therapy is everything. You have to get your kid therapy, and the school is where they'll get it, is what they say. That's why even though our son grew scared every day more and more to go to school, we kept him enrolled. And it's something that we, especially me, continue to regret to this day. We were afraid that pulling him out would end the limited services that he was getting. We wanted to believe the system was doing the right thing and that this was just a terrible accident. That's what makes what happened next so hard.
So we didn't file a complaint during the school year because we feared retaliation. And with how the district had been treating us, that fear was real.
He is going to be on the old end, but hopefully talking and communicating and at least able to tell us if he comes home from school with a big abrasion in the middle of his head, how it got there. Because that happened and we didn't have any clue how it got there. So moving him on to kindergarten is silly.
Can I ask, if we do not do anything with him, like if he's not in your preschool at all next year, then when he goes to kindergarten, does that affect anything?
Well, if you do that, when you come back, we will register him for his age appropriate grade level. So that's what we do with every student. So if he is at the cutoff to go into first grade when you come back, or whatever that would be, it would be going into his grade appropriate grade level.
Once school ended, we finally filed a formal complaint with the Colorado Department of Education, a 70-day process that would take all summer. And the Department of Education refused to investigate the injury because it's not related to his IEP. They told us we don't investigate injuries, meaning it's out of their jurisdiction. There is no basis to investigate. As a matter of fact, Mr. Snowberger confirms this himself in an email to us stating, as you know, the Colorado Department of Education has rejected the complaint as not something they will review as it doesn't apply to the IEP. They also refused to look into how we were excluded from our son's IEP process or how the district delayed required notices. Unfortunately, that's the status of parental rights in the state of Colorado, even in a conservative county like Elbert County. And the only violation they found was a procedural one, a late prior written notice, and they said that didn't impact our ability to participate, although they never listed our safety concerns in the IEP. They never acknowledged that we had safety concerns for our sons. And anybody who sat through those IEP meetings, my heart goes out to you, because you know how far from the truth that really is.
The CDE closed the case in August of 25, and we decided that we had to find the truth ourselves. To be clear, we never alleged abuse. We said our son came home with a head injury and that the school never reported, and we asked what happened, and that's it. We filed a police report in August of 2025, and the officer spoke to a few staff members and said they didn't find anything criminal. Criminal is the key word. But the case was never really investigated. There were no interviews with us, no follow-up, and no review of records.
And the deputy, to his credit, he responded. He wasn't a detective, and so he didn't look into the educational records that might have informed the case. He was responding to the call, right, as to discover maybe what happened.
And something even stranger happened after that. The same week that the officer visited the school, our entire class dojo thread, where I had talked to my son's teachers about the injury, the only written proof that we had that they acknowledged it was completely erased from my account. That was the only place where the injury was ever documented, and it disappeared completely. And contrary to what Mr. Snowberger told the public, we were never contacted by the district attorney's office. We actually reached out to the DA ourselves at the end of August, but we never received a call back. Mr. Snowberger even admitted on August 28th, 2025 in an email to us, quote unquote, "At this point, I have had no luck getting anyone from the district attorney's office to respond."
So we filed a FERPA request. That's the Families Education Rights and Privacy Act. We filed that back in April of 2025, asking for all educational records for our son. We started looking for direct answers to what was going on with our son at school. The district's response excluded emails claiming that those weren't educational records. However, they did submit them to the Colorado Department of Education as part of my son's educational records. So later, when we pressed again, they told us those same emails are available under Colorado's Open Record Act, but only if we paid for them. So we did. We paid under protest. And then the district withheld 106 out of 144 emails, with an additional 8 withheld for attorney-client privilege. That's nearly 80%, citing FERPA. And what wasn't withheld was redacted of our own son's information. Now, that is clearly against the law. The law states, and the Supreme Court has decided, if you are the person in interest, meaning those records are about you, they have to release them to you. We are the parents in interest, and they're redacting our own son's information from us. So first they said FERPA didn't apply, and then they said it did. Whatever excuse it was that let them withhold more information. And the worst part is they accidentally released a spreadsheet with the private information on 32 other preschoolers, names, schedules of therapy, and IEP notes, while still refusing to give us our own child's information. That's not transparency, that's negligence.
After almost a month of begging Superintendent Snowberger to initiate an internal investigation, he finally agreed. The reason for the delay, he wrote, was when we investigate and question ahead of law enforcement of the DA's investigators, we have had situations where we negatively impact the outcome in their case.
Think about that for a second. We have negatively impacted the outcome in a case. That is a direct quote from Mr. Snowberger's email.
His conclusion was that no one witnessed the injury, therefore nothing could be done. He did admit one thing, though, and that's that the staff failed to report the biting incident the same day and said that it would be handled as a personnel matter. But our son's own records tell a different story.
So during Ronan's reevaluation, A third-party occupational therapist, someone outside of the district who was on contract, wrote that our son can be removed from the classroom for regulation. And that was not in his IEP. There was no plan, no documentation, and no parent consent authorizing removal from his general education classroom for regulation. When we asked about this, the district's only explanation was he was only removed per his IEP. But his IEP explicitly states that all services are to be delivered in the general education setting. And perhaps the most telling part, Mr. Snowberger never once interviewed us or asked us our side of the story before issuing his conclusion. Whatever happened to our son, it appears that it didn't happen in plain sight, and the district doesn't seem interested in finding out.
Mr. Snowberger's investigation was not concluded until September 15th of 2025, leaving the next board meeting to be September 23rd, 2025, and we were out of options. We spoke at the board meeting, we were calm and respectful, and we asked for help. Despite the district's policy that prohibits officials from responding directly to public comment, the board allowed Mr. Snowberger to speak immediately after us, using the time to downplay or dismiss our concerns. We sent a formal follow-up email to the board asking for review of the emails and to restore trust with us and with the public. But instead of answering, the district sent us to their attorney, Brad Miller, a man who's known across Colorado for defending districts against parents like us. And from that point on, all communication had to go through him.
And I emailed all of the board members the next day, thanking them for the opportunity to speak and to finally hear my story. None of them responded. I had to show up in person and confront them at a campaign event and say, hey, why didn't you respond to my email? Now, on October 28th, 2025, Dan Snowberger stood up at the board meeting and publicly called our family's statements demonstrably untrue.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've had some parents who previously had their child enrolled in one of our preschool programs who have made public accusations regarding the care of their child by the Elizabeth School District. While we have tried to work with this family in this matter, it is unfortunate that this family has chosen.
So I objected to what he said. I said, Dan, you are discussing my family in a way that exposes our private information. Please stop. He continued to share details about my son and my family without our consent. And watch what happens when I ask the board for time to respond. I'd like to have my 3 minutes to respond right now, if I may.
Okay, so next up we have public comments. So who do we have? Okay, first up we have Chrissy Howell.
While the board may stand behind Mr. Snowberger's statements, claiming that we're looking for something that's just not there, in the same breath, they admitted they hadn't even reviewed the emails themselves. I said the records will show the truth. And the board president said, well, I'm going to take a look at those. The records will show the truth.
Okay, and I will take a look at those. You're asking us to accept responsibility for an incident that there's no evidence to substantiate.
How can you come to the conclusion that there's nothing there if you haven't looked there? The board was asked directly to conduct an independent review of our FERPA records request, a responsibility they're empowered to fulfill under state and federal law, and they chose silence. By refusing to act, the board abandoned its duty to ensure accountability and parental access to records concerning our own child and his safety.
What we're asking for is honesty and accountability and safety, and not just for our son, but for every child who can't tell their parents what's happening to them. Parents have a right to know what's happening to their children at school. It's not politics, it's parenting. If districts can hide behind loopholes and lawyers, then no family is safe. And we're going to keep fighting for the truth because every child deserves to be safe, seen, and heard.